the worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach, and fitness expert, Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disruptive: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance. This is your chance where I sit down with today's tops in business, mindset, wellness, and success to help you master disruption and thrive.
Thanks for coming, and we'll see you soon.
My next guest is recognized as one of the top business thought leaders and leadership development experts in the world, and was named by the American Management Association as one of the America's top 50 leaders to watch, along with Sergey Brin and Larry Page of Google and Jeff Bezos. I am honored to welcome to the podcast John Spence.
Thank you, Lisa. It's my honor to be here.
Well, this is going to be a fun conversation because I love what you're all about. I love your books. I want to talk about first, what is the importance of having a personal purpose to keep you focused and motivated?
Well, sometimes we get a little lost, and it's not, it's hard to get motivated. I think when you've got it's like in an organization. When an organization has a noble purpose, everyone gets aligned. It's more energy, more excitement. I think as an individual, if you have a clear purpose for your life, it's something you can get up in the morning, and no matter how challenging things are, you know that you're doing something important. You're here to make a difference, to change people's lives, to help them. And I do workshops on this idea around the world, and almost everyone's main purpose is to help other people. So that's pretty motivating and allows you to make it through even the most challenging times.
I love being purpose-led. I really was enjoying that topic because we've all been through challenging times lately. And when you're led by your purpose rather than what you have to do, what you get to do, what you're inspired to do, will keep you going on the days when it's disruptive, like everything every day in the last 3.5 years.
Yeah, I think when you match your personal purpose and your personal core values, that when those two things are aligned, you know what you need. It's easy. Well, when values are clear, decisions are easy. When your purpose is clear, decisions are easy. You can look at something, again, challenging, disruptive, difficult, and look at it and say, does this match my purpose? Does this match my values? Yes, I'm going to go do it. If not, it's a good reason to step back and reconsider.
Mic drop moment here. When values are clear, purpose is easy. And did I get that right?
But when values are clear, decisions are easy. That's actually a Walt Disney quote.
I love that quote. When values are clear, decisions are easy. Okay, I know we just touched on the topic of disruption, and that's one of my favorite topics. So now that we know about values and clarity and purpose and making decisions, how can we use past failures that turned out well in the end as a touchstone for handling these current failures?
Yeah, I've got a fun little quick story I'll tell you on this. I grew up in Miami, Florida. My father was a very famous attorney, a wealthy family. I went to one of the top prep schools in the country. When I graduated, I decided I'd go to the University of Miami in Miami, Florida, because it was close to my girlfriend and the beach.
Great. Your values and your purpose.
Yeah. Those were my values at that time. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Which is not the reason you should choose university. And I promptly failed out with a 1.6 GPA. Problem. The University of Miami has a thing called the Order of the Iron Arrow. It's the highest award they can give an alumni. My father was Order of the Iron Arrow. No, it gets worse. The year I got kicked out, my father was on the board of directors of the university. It gets worse. Part of the law school is named after my father. So you got to really mess up to get kicked out of a college where there's a building named after your family. And I was removed from the University of Miami, and I was also removed from my family. They just disowned me and said, "You've messed up, go away." So I drove up to Gainesville, Florida, where I live now, and applied for the University of Florida. And they literally, Lisa, laughed at me. I handed the woman my transcript. She went, "We don't take people like you." And I was like, that was the change. That was the turning point. I remember walking down the stairs, sitting on the stairs and starting to cry and saying, I think I've thrown my whole life away here. I had all these dreams of owning companies and traveling the world, gone. So I'll keep the speed up here. I did get admitted to a local community college, and I was there. And one of my professors told me the three things it takes to get straight A's in college. And I think I'd like to share that with everybody because it's the most important thing I've ever learned. He said, number one, read the books. He said, at least in college, 99% of the answers are in the books. All the answers aren't in the books in life. I read about 100 business books a year, but the information to get to the books and get to the answers are in the books. Number two, one of the most important things I've ever learned is ask for help. He said, go to the professors, go to the other students, go to the TAs, ask everybody in sight for help. And, a lot of people think it's weak to ask for help. Here's what I learned. It's courageous. And when I asked everybody in sight for help, what did I get? Lots of help. And then the last thing he said is start study groups, which is basically a mastermind group. Fast forward, I'll be 60 in a few months. I still have a study group, a mastermind group of 18 CEOs. We get together, we help each other. So I did make it out of community college. I reapplied to the University of Florida. They let me in. I graduated number 4 in the United States in my major, was hired by the Rockefellers and named CEO of one of the Rockefeller Foundations when I was 26. Had I not failed, I would never be where I am today. And I look back at that and say, at that time, that was the most devastating failure. I mean, my family said, we don't want to see anymore. Now I look back at it and say, had that not happened, my life would have not been on the trajectory it went on. So I actually look at that and go, wow, am I glad I failed there and learned from that.
Oh, so much to unpack there. First of all, I really appreciate that you shared your vulnerable, honest story to inspire our audience that we can all fail forward. I know I have been on a roller coaster of lots of failures, and that was what made me want to launch the podcast in 2020. I'm like, this is hard for me. It's got to be hard for other people too. And how do I get good guests? People ask me that, like yourself. I ask for help. I asked for things, and I thanked you off camera before we even started. Thanks for saying yes, because how do you get anything? You ask for help.
And most people, go ahead. I'm so sorry, Lisa.
I'm just saying thank you for saying yes, and thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for talking about the values of reading books and your story. Because even though you were handed such a wonderful background, like we weren't all raised like that, you were honest and vulnerable, and you failed and you learned from that. So anything else about silver linings of failures?
Well, on that one, I was asked to do a TED Talk years ago on the most important thing I've ever learned. And I told that story. But the silver lining to that was the most important life lesson I've ever got, which again has totally changed my life and allowed me to be resilient and strong and gritty in difficult times. And here it is. You become what you focus on and like the people you surround yourself with. Whatever you're reading, studying, learning, whatever your thoughts are, wherever your energy flows, whatever you're focused on, and whoever you choose to be around directly determines what your life will look like a decade from now. So again, in difficult, all of us are on roller coasters. I've got a phrase I love: everyone is fighting a mighty battle you know nothing about. Always be kind. That when you're around the right people, you're bringing in the right information, you're studying the right things, that your life gets, and asking for help, your life gets so much easier.
And the power of the mastermind is such a good thing that you brought up too, because I love surrounding myself with people that are way more successful in life than I am, like yourself, like my best friend who holds me to higher standard than I do for myself and isn't afraid to walk in there and say, you messed up, do this better next time. So I love surrounding myself with people that will actually tell me the truth too.
You need people that can be brutally honest. I've lost about 100 pounds, and I was talking to my wife. We won't go into how I gained all that weight, but no one in my close circle of friends really said anything. They saw it edging up, and it's sort of like, if you're with somebody every day, you don't quite. But one of my friends, Matt Davis, signed me up to be the keynote speaker at the American Heart Association's Heart Healthy CEO Conference. 500 top CEOs in the room, many of them my friends. And he said, your speech, John, will be on how to be heart healthy. And I looked at him, I said, I'm going to kill you. You can't put me up in front of all those people and ask me to, I'm not heart healthy. I'm a damn collision course with death here. And he said, no, it's too late. We've already sold the tickets. You're there. So I stood in front of him and said, I am totally out of integrity with my values. I will come back next year and I will weigh 100 pounds less. I didn't make it that year. I made 77 pounds, but there's a great saying that goes along with this from a book called A Course in Miracles. When people treat you difficult, or they push back, or maybe they seem harsh, it's one of two things. It's a cry for help, or it's a loving response. When you see somebody treat someone else poorly, much of the time it's because they're really upset with themselves. They hate themselves. Something's going on so bad in their life that they take it out on other people. The other one is when someone does something that feels really painful, but it's actually from a place of great love. That's what Matt did for me. And again, it's those kind of people, like you said, a mastermind group of people that will tell you the truth, that are the ones that will change your life when you're not paying attention to the stuff that's most important.
Thank you for that. I love these wisdom bombs you're dropping here, and the hard truth. People that'll just say the things that are hard to say are the ones we learn from, even though we might feel triggered, our feelings could get hurt. But I love how you lead with empathy first, and you never know how much pain other people are going through. So always be kind is such a wonderful way to lead your life, and it shows. And this is why I'm so happy to talk to you. I want to jump into one more topic for our audience, and that's just how can we learn the difference? I know this comes from AA about controlling the controllables, but learn the difference between knowing what we can and cannot control.
Yeah, I study a lot, and Stoicism is one of my favorite areas of study. And there's a lot of things, but there's two basic tenets to Stoicism. The first one is it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you react to what happens to you, how you choose to respond. It's why I like to call it responsibility. You have the ability to choose your response. So step one is it's not what happens, it's how you choose to respond. And step two is figure out the stuff in your life you can take control of. Take massive control of that, and then as much as humanly possible, let go of everything outside of that. And if you look at the list of things you can control, it's finite. It's only two things. Your behavior, your attitude, and your behavior, your thoughts and your behavior.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a quick example. A couple of weeks ago, I was delivering a speech at the Kennedy Space Center here in Florida to a bunch of people from NASA. And the day that I was there happened to be the day they were going to launch a SpaceX rocket. So people had driven in from all over the place, country, everything. That hotel rooms are all there. And that afternoon, a major storm rolled in, and they had to scrub the launch. And people were so mad. They were and I was like, team, let me help you with something. You can't control the weather, and no matter how mad you might be, they're not launching today. So all this, and I think both you and I see a lot of pain caused in people's lives by trying to control things that are out of their control. At the top of that list, other people. You don't believe the way I believe. You don't act the way I want you to, blah, blah, blah. You need to change. That doesn't work very well.
Especially not in politics. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's just like the things you can't control are other people is so well said. And especially the weather in South Florida.
Yeah, during the summer.
And the fact that you mentioned just that gap between the stimulus and the response, where you can control, is like, okay, it's like someone throws a brick at you. You can catch it and think about what you want to say.
There's an interesting
react. Sorry. No, and then respond, right? That responsibility communication.
I'm sorry, I keep getting excited.
No, keep going. Me too.
I teach a tool in a lot of my classes about a thing, and you called it the gap between stimulus and response. And what I've found is that many people, that gap is very small. They get angry, they yell. They get upset, they get to do. There is no, so people that are good at this, and it's really EQ. This is self-awareness and self-regulation. The two, to me, the two fundamental things around EQ. And what I teach is you need a little mantra in between those things, but you can stop back up and say, like for me, mine, I used to have a very bad temper. Years ago, I studied karate, played rugby, not a nonviolent guy, never hit anybody, never got in a fight, but anger was pretty quick to explode. So I created a little gap there, and I asked myself now, what is the kind, loving, gentle thing to do here? If something happens, I back up just for a couple seconds. Not what do I feel like doing, not what I kind of get away with, not what are my emotions driving, but what's the kind, loving, gentle thing to do here? And I ask people to write down how would the ideal you handle this situation? And then I try to encourage them that when something comes up like that you stop and go to that ideal you, those couple of words you've chosen, and act as if that was you. And what happens over time is that becomes the way you act and behave all the time.
Wonderful. The kind, loving thing to do. Are there any final wisdom bombs you want to drop on our audience about emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, and how you are so honest that, this intelligence comes from how we did it all wrong. That's how I learned things. So,
Yeah.
any other final tips for our audience or information about your books you want to leave us with?
We won't worry about the books. People can find them if they want to, but I'll share something. I had an interesting conversation with one of my friends this week. I'll be 60 in March of this year. And when I turned 59, I came up with a little phrase. I now realize I know very little about almost nothing and almost nothing about everything else. I think one of the most important things, and to be resilient and gritty, is to realize there's a lot more to learn. And for me, every book I read is two more that I have to read to understand the book I just read. I'm in the best learning phase I've ever been in my entire life. I'm having more fun learning than any time because now I realize how little I know and how much more there is to explore and learn. And I think that helps you in difficult times to say, there's a way out of this, or I can fix this. I just need to keep learning, trying new things, experimenting, bouncing forward from failure. So that would be, one of the greatest things you can learn is that you still have a lot to learn.
I love that because you have a growth mindset. Because when you have a fixed mindset, you already know that. And when you already know that, what's the point? Learning is life and growing. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much, John Spence. Where can people find you?
Oh, it's easy, johnspence.com. How innovative is that, huh? Just John. And if anyone has a question or wants to follow up on this, I always do this. My personal email is john@johnspence.com, and I will do my best to answer your question. And if I can't answer it, I will find somebody who can. But my website's just johnspence.com.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's my honor. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for coming. This podcast is brought to you by Magic Mind, the world's first productivity shot, found at magicmind.com. Use the code CEO20 to get a discount or find them in Sprouts. I use this as an entrepreneur to help keep me focused, energized, and not too jittery like coffee does. So magicmind.com, the world's first productivity shot.